Showers and strong winds developing later this morning, a top of 24. Tomorrow, showers and 14. Saturday, a shower or two and 14 again. Partly cloudy and 17 for Sunday. Then a possible shower on Monday and Tuesday next week, with temperatures staying in the mid-teens. More news as it happens on 5AA.
1395, Adelaide's 5AA. This is Peter Godfrey.
Good morning, 8 minutes past 5. 19 degrees at the moment, warm. Been a funny old night. Our low was 11 o'clock last night where we were on 12 degrees. And then we did just about touch on 20 degrees a couple of hours back and started to drop back a little bit. But as Hayley mentioned, all sorts coming in the weather today. Anyway, that time of the year. Let's see what's happening across the ditch in New Zealand. Selwyn Manning with us, editor of eveningreport.nz. How are you this morning, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter. I'm looking at the weather here as well. We had an overnight temperature of 6 degrees.
6.
So pretty frosty, and that's in Auckland, of course. There's pretty frosty south of that and around the Waikato area, just south of Auckland.
Oh, you there, Selwyn? I think we've lost Selwyn. Hello? There's to Selwyn Manning. I reckon... I don't know if you can hear me, Selwyn. I reckon Selwyn's line has dropped out there. We got you there, Selwyn. I think we might have to quick break and we'll try and get Selwyn back on the line. I think maybe he hasn't paid his phone bill. Hopefully that's not the case. We'll find him in a second.
At LifeCare, we view aged care differently. In fact, we want to flip the traditional aged care model on its head. We talk to our clients and give them the choice of care or services they want when they want them. Whether it's for help at home, independent living accommodation or residential care, we can help. And the choice is in your hands. So join us. Look beyond the conventional attitudes towards ageing and live every day with LifeCare. lifecare.org.au.
Breathe better with Salin Plus. Sleep better with Salin Plus. Reduce snoring with Salin Plus. Salin Plus works by releasing tiny particles of salt into the air, which can help with respiratory problems, including coughing, asthma, hay fever, snoring, colds and flu. Salin Plus, completely natural salt therapy in your own home. And comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So breathe better, sleep better. Ask your trusted pharmacist about Salin Plus or visit ableasthma.com.au.
I need a filter for my motor.
Auto Pro.
Have you got a disc brake rotor?
Auto Pro. We've got seat covers, tools and clamps, gaskets, oils, mats and ramps. For great prices, we're the champs. Auto Pro.
I'd like a fancy new sunshade.
Auto Pro.
I'll grab a set of wiper blades.
Auto Pro.
I want a brand new regulator, an electric alternator, and can you fix my radiator?
Auto Pro.
Call 132 776 for your nearest dealer.
Auto Pro.
Peter Godfrey, talking Adelaide on 1395, 5AA.
All right, take two with Selwyn Manning in New Zealand. We lost you somehow, Selwyn. Don't know if it's...
Yeah, back in now, Peter, I think, with a little bit of a delay running, so if we sound like I'm going over the top of it, that's probably the reason why. Maybe it's the spies, Peter. They're all excited because the government is introducing new legislation to be able to give them the ability legally to start spying on Kiwis. So we'll talk a bit about that later, just tongue-in-cheek there. But, we're up to the weather, I think, and just saying that overnight temperatures in Auckland were around 6 degrees and quite frosty in the southern parts. We're looking for a high of around 15 to 16 degrees this afternoon, and really blue skies. It's that crisp air, Peter. It feels like early spring, and the daffodils are out, of course, and a little bit too early for the tulips, but there's a few crocus around and freesias and things like that, so there's a bit of hope in the air, Peter.
Yes, well, it's starting to feel a bit that way here as well. Nice. Well, how about we get straight on to this issue about this spy legislation, which your Prime Minister has stated will be the most significant reform of the intelligence agencies in New Zealand's history.
He sounds very Prime Minister-like there. It's not even a joke tagged on the end of it. The joke's on us Kiwis, I suppose. But you're quite right there, Peter. New Zealand National-led government introduced legislation into Parliament this week that, if passed, will enable the country's intelligence agencies, most significantly the SIS, or Security Intelligence Service, and the GCSB, which is the Government Communications Security Bureau, which is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Now, they will be, if this law goes through, and it looks like it most likely will, that they will be able to, particularly the GCSB here, is right in the scope of this particular bill, it will be able to turn its electronic surveillance directly onto Kiwis until now, it has been illegal for it to do so, even when there are other agencies leading a surveillance operation. Now, until now, as I was saying, New Zealand citizens and permanent residents, to be specific, it is illegal and unlawful for the GCSB to place them under surveillance. The Security Intelligence Service, I've got to say, has been permitted and always has been a domestic spy agency, but this particular piece of legislation pulls both of these agencies under the one umbrella, supposedly to make it more streamlined. There's a few things in here, Peter, that are kind of raising a few eyebrows. The new legislation, it kind of brings in this area where those that are issuing the warrants, that bar is lowered. I'll just mention that in a couple of minutes. But first off, the definition of whether or not a person or a Kiwi could and should be put under surveillance is if they're a danger to New Zealand's national security. So that one is obviously the definition there, and that's the overriding definition, very broad. What exactly does that mean? Some people would say the governments of the day are often contrary to our national interests, but there you go. This whole legislation here is looking like it's going to be extremely controversial, if not just in its positioning to get passed and made into law, but certainly in its practice. One big problem with this whole thing is the oversight, Peter. The oversight in the review that was the oversight recommendations that were part of a major review earlier this year. It was published by the former New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister under Helen Clark, Sir Michael Cullen, and another person called Patsy Reddy, who came from a more corporate background. They recommended that oversight kind of step up on this, and was quite specific in 2-3-tier kind of approach to oversight of what the spy agencies were actually doing. The government has wheedled that right down to make it much more easier. It's not going to have that kind of exposure of what was recommended. They're also saying here that it will make it illegal for whistleblowers to make any revelations in the public interest, making those revelations public. What it's talking about there is it will make it an offence under the new Act for anyone to go to the media or make public classified information, reveal illegal practices that may be placed on the behalf of the intelligence agencies, any inappropriate or excessive use of surveillance and interception powers that Parliament is basically being asked to pass to these spy agencies. It's also warning anyone that this whole thing is about warning anyone who holds a government security clearance, i.e. works in that particular sector, that if they and the wording here is wrongfully communicate, retain or copy classified information, end of quote, they will be charged under the Act. What it's doing there is really trying to prevent an Edward Snowden type of situation happening, or anyone from inside the intelligence fraternity from leaking information to journalists that it basically makes it out into the public arena. That is, in some ways, is quite disturbing. The government is saying that it is quite satisfactory for any complaints from inside or outside simply to go to the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security and not actually be thrashed out in the way that Edward Snowden has done on a global scale, Peter.
Has it ever, I mean, from sort of my sort of looking over your side of the ditch, I mean, is there, New Zealand doesn't have a track record of people doing that sort of thing, of leaking information or things like that? It sort of seems quite extraordinary that the government will seem to be taking this fairly hard-handed approach.
It's been a culture here of building up such an apparatus for some years now, since there were changes under the Helen Clark-led government that kept in time with the post-9/11 period. But you've got to say, since 2011, there's been significant reforms under the John Key-led national government, Peter, right in this space. Some people theorise, and they may be right here, that New Zealand is the testing ground for such legislation for the other Five Eyes partners. Okay. Meaning United States, Canada, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand in that intelligence alliance that kind of coordinates intelligence sharing and capability around the globe. So if that's the case, it's one of the reasons why I raised it, not in your program actually, is that it may be that some more measures are being prepared for your own country in such ways.
Indeed.
That may justify, perhaps, from John Key's point of view, of what they're doing there. Now, like you said at the beginning of the the bulletin, Peter, John Key, the Prime Minister here, he stated on Monday that the legislation will be the most significant reform of intelligence agencies in New Zealand's history. So, you know, since 2008, so we're getting up to 8 years, New Zealanders have, by degrees, felt the eye of the state becoming more and more focused on them, that they're becoming into the scope here. This one pretty much makes it so that if the GCSB does wish to, under certain conditions, it just has to go to the Attorney General, basically, for a warrant to be signed. That takes the onus away from the Prime Minister to do so. So it's lowering the bar in that way too. They can come into that scope if a government of the day or the intelligence agencies themselves determine their actions to be contrary to New Zealand's national interest or a danger to them. So this has become quite a different kind of country in such a way, in these ways, from a civil libertarian kind of point of view, since the 2000s, very much so. What's the current Labour leader, Andrew Little? He is not jumping up and down over these changes. He's a part of the Parliamentary Committee into Intelligence, alongside David Shearer, his spokesperson for Foreign Affairs. And he's basically saying, well, they'll look through this before they make a comment to see whether or not his party can support it. Sounds like they're giving it very, very strong consideration to actually support, if not every part of it, but in the spirit of what's being proposed, Peter.
What about any of the other minor parties, Greens or Maori Party or anything like that? Has there been any response on them as to whether they would support or oppose it?
Maori Party has been quite quiet on this. The Green Party is outside of that parliamentary committee on intelligence, and it's been quite scathing that this bill is just another extension of the intelligence club, and what they're getting at there is both National and the Labour parties have long enjoyed the privilege of overseeing or supposedly overseeing the actions of the spy agencies. And they're saying that the Greens, while they had a brief time there with its former leader, Russell Norman, being on that committee, it has been excluded from being a part of keeping an eye on what these agencies are doing ever since. So that's in the last 2 years, 18 months. What is also going on there too, we've got to say, Peter, just on the tag at the end of this, is that the intelligence agencies aren't squeaky clean in their operations here in New Zealand. Once again, in early 2012, 2013, it was found that the GCSB itself was acting illegally, spying on permanent residents and Kiwis, and there was reform and legislation that John Key introduced after those revelations that retrospectively made what they were doing illegally, made it legal, if that makes sense to you there. It didn't make sense to a lot of us at the time. And there was no consequence apart from actually more draconian measures coming out of it. So there's a big deal here. Is it going to go through? I'd say yes, Peter, 100% behind that it'll go through. Is it going to show up on the radar of the average person or make the average person concerned? Probably not. But certainly if people found themselves to be subversive in the eyes of the government, meaning that their protest attitudes or their politics was contrary to what the government believed was in the national interest, then they may find that they're under surveillance, and quite significantly so. Okay,
interesting one. All right, so we'll just have a quick break, but then we'll come back and talk on a good note, or particularly good note, the Games, the Olympics, and how you guys have been going.
For the Olympics, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Be right back with you, Selwyn Manning is with us from New Zealand, editor of eveningreport.nz.
Where do you go for a $3,000 minimum trade-in? That's right, $3,000 minimum trade-in on a new or demo Mitsubishi? You go to Agostino. Right now at Agostino Mitsubishi, you'll get $3,000 minimum trade-in on new and demo Mirage and Lancer. Yes, $3,000 minimum trade-in. Terms and conditions apply. So go to Agostino Mitsubishi. 2 great locations. LDD 25301.
What happens when Greek and Italian meets West? You get
Yasu.
Ciao. You get
Oreo.
Delicioso. You get Liquid Espresso. Just 10 minutes out of the city is Liquid Espresso. The locals call it their second home. But it's time the whole world had a taste of Liquid Espresso. This fusion of Mediterranean flavours just keeps on winning hearts. And awards too. Open 7 days. Take your family and discover
Liquid Espresso.
Liquid Espresso. Liquid Espresso. Grange Road, Findon, or find them on Facebook.
Investing with Angus Securities is more than just a great rate. It's confidence, because our experience gives us stability and strength. Angus Securities, Call 8410 4343. Investments are not bank deposits, and there is a risk you could lose some or all of your money. It is strongly recommended you read the PDS carefully to decide if any product is right for you. AFS licence number 232479.
Darling, what are you doing in my wardrobe? And why are you wearing my shoes?
Well, actually, I need them for work.
Work?
Yes, the guys at work are all joining in the Harcourts Walk a Mile in their shoes event to take a stand against domestic violence.
Sadly, domestic violence takes place every day in our communities. On Friday, September 2nd, Harcourts walks a mile in their shoes to raise awareness of the issue of domestic violence. For more details on how to support us, go to harcourts.com.au.
How do I look in these?
Sensational.
Want to get your garden looking its best? Look for Brunnings garden products, because with 160 years of history, no one beats Brunnings for value.
Especially when it comes to a greener lawn. Just toss on some Brunnings Green Up and it'll green up any lawn in 7 to 10 days.
Brunnings Green Up, part of the Brunnings lawn care range. At all good garden centres and hardware stores. Brunnings garden products, proudly South Australian owned.
Time for another top deal from Nordic Honda, top of Glen Osmond Road. Want a top moment in life? Well, how's this? For this month only, you can receive an amazing deal from Nordic Honda on any new Honda vehicle. Get this, any new Honda vehicle plus a free $500 travel voucher. Top that, a free $500 travel voucher. Ask the Nordic Honda team about 5-year extended warranties on all new Hondas and drive away today.
Another top deal from the top of Glen Osmond Road. Nordic Honda.
Nordic Honda.
Peter Godfrey on 1395, Adelaide's 5AA.
And Selwyn Manning with us from New Zealand, talking about things happening across the ditch. Selwyn, the Olympics.
The Olympics, Peter.
Plenty. Now, in some quarters here, people are sort of starting to think, what's going on? Well, our medal tally's a little bit low. But what's the reaction over your side of the ditch as far as your haul so far?
Yeah, there's an anticipation of excitement. I mean, this time last week, Peter, we were in the same position that you guys were, but we didn't have any gold medals at that stage, and there had been a few people competing that where there were a lot of hope on, and they didn't quite fire on their competition opportunities there. But since then, New Zealanders have got quite happy. Remember, we're a smaller country, yes. So therefore the number of golds and medals in general is a lot lower than what you guys achieved. But we've had 3 gold medals in significant, just like what we were talking about last week, Peter, in the sense that most of these are on the water. New Zealand seems to do quite well in that way. The rowing, for example, in the M2 sculls, Hamish Bond and Eric Murray, they pulled out a gold last week since we talked, and that was obviously a fantastic thing. Also, they won gold back in the London Olympics too, so they've been extreme heroes back here. Likewise with the single sculls in the rowing, Mahi Drysdale, he's a formidable competitor, and he got gold again this year at Rio. He picked up gold at the Olympics in London as well. Lisa Carrington only yesterday, or the night between Wednesday night and Thursday night, the Dateline type thing, but in the K1 200, that's in the canoe kayak, Lisa Carrington won gold back in London, and she did it again at Rio. Fantastic, Lisa Carrington. She's a superstar over here in New Zealand. Her attitude is just perfect, for this. Has never gone to her head. She's just delightful. And she's competing again. Overnight, she confirmed that she'll be in the final. She came second in the semi-finals in the K1 500, which is pushing her endurance. She's got one of the highest power to weight ratios in competing. She's about 10 kgs lighter than her competitors, Peter, but that power to weight ratio, she's just muscular, and her physique is something impressive. But anyway, she's competing in the K1 500 tomorrow, and so there's a lot of hopes there that there may be another gold coming her way. I think she got silver in London, so she's right up there. Others that are coming through too, I've got to say, Peter, this is a bit complex, but our yachters, the 2 guys, Blair Took and also Peter Burling in the yachting 49ers. Now, they won their gold medal, but they won it with 2 races to spare, so they blitzed the whole field, in that particular competition. And they have to wait till Friday for the gold medal to be formally announced. They just have to turn up, basically, to sail. They don't have to even win the thing or come anywhere significant. They've already got the gold. So New Zealand basically has got 4 gold medals there. We're really quite pleased with that. Got a lot of silver medals. People like Valerie Andrew, Valerie. She in the shot put. She came through with a silver medal, right leading the pack for the gold right until the last shot was played, and she just missed out there last weekend. That's Valerie. And going into what is coming up now, there's a lot of hope on the Black Sticks. That's the New Zealand women's hockey team. They're playing at the moment in the Olympics, Peter. Right at the moment, they're playing Great Britain in the semi-final, so there's hopes there. Like I was saying with Lisa Carrington, also there's some more hope on the water with the yachts. And also on the cycling track. So we'll see how we go. But generally what we're looking at too in this side of the ditch, Peter, is not just the numbers of the ones compared on the per country thing, but by the per population. The New Zealand Herald has got a nice little thing there, and it shows that New Zealand's in sixth position at the moment with its 3 golds, so that's probably going to go up. So we're quite happy with that.
Yeah,
not too bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, the sailing's been interesting. I was yesterday morning when the laser class was on, the event that we took the gold. Tom Burton took the gold in that, and your guy Sam Meach took bronze. I wasn't aware of all the tactics in that. I was sort of only seeing bits of it as it was happening yesterday, but last night I saw the repeat of it. That's a fascinating... I mean, it's a brutal sport, some of the tactics in there.
Isn't it amazing? You know, for us that have grown up in Auckland, we've kind of become accustomed to it.
Yeah, with the Banger,
the tactics, it's fantastic. I guess it was brought to life, wasn't it, way back when the America's Cup was big, you know, and it was being played out off Fremantle there. And that brought a lot of the tactics to life for a lot of people when we were watching that, and we had hopes of taking out that one, but we kind of missed out, I think. We missed out to the Americans way back then. But the fantastic sport, and an accessible sport for a lot of us that live in a country where we can go sailing.
And those fantastic little laser dinghies, I mean, tiny little things, but gee, they look like a lot of fun too.
And in that, our New Zealand competitor there, he wasn't really expected to get into the medal areas. So he is absolutely thrilled. He comes from Tauranga, which is about 2 hours south of Auckland on the Pacific coast there in the Bay of Plenty. And he is absolutely thrilled. His community was celebrating that like it was a gold.
Good.
So, you know, as far as, you know, like you guys getting there, that was fantastic too. And he said, it was just great competing with these guys. You know, he was thrilled to bits. And it's that kind of thing I think that the Olympics often brings to life, and it's just fantastic to see that, isn't it?
A bit like Fiji last Friday with the Rugby Sevens, their first gold
look
ever.
At them. They're, you know, in that table I was talking about, per population, there's Fiji in number 2. Isn't that great?
Fantastic. All right, Selwyn, many more to come. We can wrap up the games next week when we talk with you. Have a good one. We'll catch you then.
Okay, mate.
Thanks, Selwyn. Selwyn Manning, editor of eveningreport.nz.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Very windy with rain developing at 24 today. It's 5:31. I'm Ann Stone. Vietnam veterans could be granted access to the Long Tan site after talks between Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the Vietnamese government. The PM has reportedly convinced Vietnam to allow Australians to hold commemorations at the site. Back home, events will continue as planned around Australia to mark the 50th anniversary of the battle. And Chris Wagner from the Australian War Memorial says it was a key moment in the conflict.
A significant battle. 105 men of D Company, 3 RAR and 3 New Zealanders from an artillery forward observation party. They were engaged by a very large force of over 2,000 Viet Cong.
A man who was stabbed at Smithfield Plains last night is in a stable condition in hospital. He's had emergency surgery at the Royal Adelaide after he was attacked at his home in Buchanan Road. When police arrived, they found the alleged offender on the roof of the home, and Star Group officers had to negotiate him down. Both men are known to each other. Fire has destroyed a house at Paralawi overnight. The home on Mildara